Hello, and welcome back to another episode of Disaster Rides, where we deviate from the normal content to talk about tragic events that have happened in unlikely places, like theme parks. I can't imagine a more terrifying experience than some of the stories we're going to discuss in this episode. So as always, viewer discretion is advised. Kinkaria Adventure Park, located in Ahmedabad, India, is a popular theme park that has been an attraction location for many of India's natives. Back in 2014, Netherlands-based company installed 5 rides in the amusement park that included the Boomerang roller coaster, the Flipping Arm, the Torching Tower, the Merry-Go-Round, and the Disc-O pendulum. That was a joyride in which a large circular pendulum was attached to a large pole structure that acted as the counterbalance. The circular ring held seating that included over 24 seats, and when in operation, would mimic the movement of a swinging pendulum, swinging back and forth in a horizontal trajectory. But on July 14th, 2019, a major malfunction would cause the ride to literally snap away from its pole arm and come crashing down over 20 feet to the cement below. And to the dismay and horror of onlookers, one such witness would just so happen to be filming the entire collapse on their cellular phone.
आमिर की वीडियो पे कमेंट लग दिया।
People can be seen watching from the other side of the fence as audible screams fill the air, with bystanders looking on in disbelief. An immediate investigation was launched to find out what exactly caused the disaster, and in the aftermath, 2 people would be killed and nearly 30 people were badly injured. The authorities would arrest and charge 6 individuals with the wrongful death and culpable homicide due to the malfunction of the pendulum ride, including park management and several of the ride's operators. One of the worst theme park disaster rides in history took place at an overseas Chinese theme park known for its thrill rides called Eco-Venture Valley, which is located in the southern city of Shenzhen, just a 1-hour drive north of Hong Kong. At the time, a ride called the Space Journey was one of the most popular rides in the park, designed to give patrons the experience of what it feels like to ride inside of a rocket ship when it takes off. It was a motion simulator that when in operation would spin 11 carriages, each carrying 4 people around a centrifuge. But around 4:45 p.m., the simulator ride would meet a catastrophic end. While in motion, the power to the ride suddenly cut off, and the inside area of the ride went completely dark. In addition to this, one of the carriages somehow came loose and flew into one of the others, causing a collapse of the entire structure inside, sending multiple carriages plunging over 50 feet to the ground. This is an animated simulation of what it was like to be inside of one of those carriages during the horrifying experience. Survivors who were interviewed after described the smell of burning rubber and fire before rescuers broke through the jammed door from the wreckage and began pulling people out. In the aftermath, 6 people would be declared dead, with several others sustaining lifelong injuries. An internal investigation was again launched afterwards, and whatever was found during that investigation was kept mostly under wraps by officials and authorities till this day. Darien, New York, July 9th, 2011. A family trip to upstate New York to visit Darien Lake Theme Park turns into an unthinkable nightmare. U.S. Army Sergeant James Hackemer was an Iraqi war veteran who served 2 tours to Iraq. While in the field, during his second tour in March of 2008, his vehicle was hit with an improvised explosive device from enemy forces that left him with several injuries. In addition to a massive amount of blood loss, which led to brain injury and 2 strokes, he would also become a double amputee, losing both of his legs. The aftermath left Sergeant James comatose for 6 weeks before he eventually came to and began the long and arduous task of rehabilitation. His recovery included the relearning of his ability to eat, speak, and write, according to the Department of Veteran Affairs. After being told that James would be a vegetable for the rest of his life, he would go on to prove them all wrong. He overcame every obstacle, and after 3.5 years of recovery, he was finally in a place to be able to enjoy time with his family. But on July 9th of 2011, James and his family would experience another tragedy of catastrophic proportions. The Ride of Steel, also known as the Superman Coaster, is a roller coaster ride at Darien Lake Theme Park Resort that is approximately 208 feet tall, with a drop length of 205 feet and a maximum speed of 73 miles per hour. That evening, around 5:30 p.m., James boarded the Ride of Steel with his nephew. Although he'd come to the park with his children and sister, they were not there with him at the time he boarded the coaster. He was seated at the very front of the ride, determined to experience the best it had to offer from the front row. As the ride took off and began its 208 feet climb, James told his nephew that he planned to throw his hands up into the air on the way down. But as the coaster descended and reached a speed of about 50 miles per hour, something terrible happened. James was suddenly flung from the ride through the air, where he fell over 150 feet to his death. The incident was witnessed by several bystanders who reported seeing him flying through the air. Afterwards, it was determined that James should have never been allowed to board the Ride of Steel because its safety restraints were designed to hold passengers safely inside of the ride by their hips and shins. Obviously, due to James' condition, this wasn't possible for him, which was an oversight that fell upon the ride's operators. Signage at the beginning of the ride clearly stated that riders needed 2 functioning legs to ride in addition to the height requirement. It's reported that he was not height checked because he entered the ride area through the exit, which also serves as the handicap entrance, and James was not wearing his prosthetic limbs on this day. And despite the fact that several staff members noticed his condition did not meet the requirements, they did not intervene and stop him from boarding. One of the reports stated that he was ejected from the ride after the hat he was wearing flew off and he attempted to reach for it. His nephew, Ashton, recalled the last moments and said, "The last time I saw him was when he was flying out. He didn't have anything holding him down. By the time I'd realized that he was pretty far out of the seat, he was too far for me to grab, and at that speed, even if I were able to catch his shirt, it wouldn't have done much." It was reported that James was offered a safety brochure for handicapped patrons back at the park's entrance, but he refused it. His family would go on to file a lawsuit and settle for a 7-figure amount at a later date.